Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. Today we have Steve Waltz from Innovia Consulting, and he's going to be presenting on cracking the CRM code. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to type them into the questions box and we will get those called out and answered for you at the end of the webinar. And we do record our webinars, so this will be available for you on our website at innovia.com later in the week for you to review again, or if you'd like to share it with anyone. So now I'll turn it over to Steve and he'll start our presentation.
Thank you, Angie. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being on our webinar today. As Angie said, it's cracking the CRM code, and my name is Steve Waltz. And this is going to be, I think, a very informative webinar if you're looking at either implementing CRM or using CRM and trying to get the most out of it. So a little bit about myself and why I'm excited about this topic. So I've been here at Innovia for just over 3 years. I started my career in the automobile industry. I have a business degree from the Miller College of Business from Ball State, and then I decided to get into the wonderful area of sales, and then I got into the automobile industry for a little over 3 years. Then I went on to work for a large healthcare pharma company, a Fortune 50 company, for almost about 25 years. And then, as I said a little bit ago, I've been here at Innovia for a little over 3 years. So I've had a lot of opportunities to work in the field of sales, carried the bag. I've done sales training, account management, territory management, sales coaching, cross-functional teams, product launches. And in these different capacities, I've had the opportunity to work with several different CRM systems. I've had a chance to work with Salesforce.com for many years, with ConnectWise, and also the Microsoft CRM. So as we progress through this webinar, we're going to talk a lot about how to make it successful. I don't know if you're aware of it, but in the world of technology, about 30% of ERP systems never go live. And it's over double that for CRM. So it's almost 2/3 of CRM implementations are considered failures. You think it would be the other way around, because in the ERP world, it's running your whole business. It runs your manufacturing, your production, your shipping, your accounting, all these different parts of operations live. Where the CRM, customer relationship management, is really managing your contacts and your other data and not running other parts of the business. But as we go through this, we're going to talk about why that happens. So what I want to do as far as the agenda and objectives is really, the main goal of this is to have you walk out of here with a renewed sense of selling more product or service, more stuff, and improving the customer experience. Because it really does, if you think about why you're in business, that's kind of why you're in business, right? To sell products or services, and along the way, you want to have a good customer experience. So what I wanted to do to kind of set the table for what we're going to talk about is, if you look on this screen, I have those things called dash buttons. So if you're a member of Amazon Prime, you've probably seen those, or some of you may even have those. What Amazon has done is they really have excelled on simplifying the buying process and really improving the customer experience. So you would align that with your Amazon Prime account, and let's say you bought those type of items. So if you actually bought Tide, you could actually have that on your washer or dryer. Then your significant other could say, hey, we need to get some more Tide. So you just push that little button, and magically a couple days later, guess what? Tide shows up at your doorstep. Now the thing about that is, did you know about a mile from your house at the store, Arm & Hammer was buy one, get one free? But it doesn't really matter, because you push that button. It's this thing called perceived control. You push the button and then it showed up. You didn't really go shopping, right? And if you look at the buy it now with one click, as you're looking on Amazon Prime, you find items that you want, and oh, I can just push this button and buy it. So you go ahead and push that button. You're like, wait a second, did I have my debit card or my credit card, or what credit card did I have? Well, it doesn't really matter. Why? Because you pushed the button and you own it. So he took out all these obstacles to prevent you from buying things and simplified it and gave you this sense of control. What they have figured out over the years is, okay, how can I use that data to sell more things? So what they have, if you look at what Amazon has done, is that if you have bought this, then others have bought that. Oh, look at that. And they even went a little bit more involved and found that, you know, one thing that people really are missing that they can use to help buy more things is the human touch, the human experience. It's kind of like TripAdvisor. When you stay at a hotel or at a restaurant, you go in there and put your comments in. So now, you know, as you're buying these things through Amazon, people are putting in comments. So if you're buying, let's say, Gillette razors, and most people have bought this other type of shaving cream, you know, there could be comments in there and like, oh, you're going to buy that. And you really had no intent to buy it, but you did. So what did Amazon do? They used the data that they had of how you buy to sell you more things. And that's kind of what CRM is going to be. You know, we want you to be able to use your data to sell more stuff. So cracking the CRM code. If we're going to be able to do that, we need to have a good sense of direction of where we're going. And the first thing I have here is you need to define your strategy. Really, as a company, you need to define your strategy. Secondly, which is probably one of the most important things on this presentation, is you need to understand that CRM is a decision-making tool. A lot of companies, when they implement it, they think, oh my gosh, I got to get some of that CRM. It's going to help me sell more things. I'll be able to see my pipeline more clearly. Well, hopefully it can, but it's really not a one-size-fits-all. And it's there, and the data is there to help you make decisions. So I want you to hopefully walk away with a better understanding of that. And we're going to talk about why kind of CRM systems fail. You know, why 2/3? Why is it so high when it shouldn't be that way? And lastly, what really leads to success is it's one of these things where you need to reverse engineer building your CRM system to make it successful. And a lot of the failure is at building it from the top down, and we'll talk about that. So one of the things that I want you to get in the mindset of thinking about is looking at your organization and ask yourself, are you a world-class selling organization? You know, I was fortunate. Every company I've been with has really been a top-notch selling organization. And in my 20 years in the pharma health industry, I worked for a company called Abbott Labs. If you ever read the book Good to Great, they had all these different metrics and criteria to rate who are the seven best companies in the world. And Abbott was one of those, so I was very fortunate. But to be a world-class organization and a great sales organization, we need to learn how to integrate a few things. And what I have on here is what we're going to talk about, your data. Right? You have all access to this information. You're seeing how people buy from you, how they ship. Maybe you can monitor the customer experience. But so what you do with that data is important. So you have what's called a process, right? Do you have a sales process? What kind of process you want to do to use the data? Now, the last three is where a lot of companies kind of lack when they're using data or integrating it with their sales team is the talent. Do you have the right talent in the right position? Right? Do you need a jet pilot to fly a crop plane for a farm to put spray on for fertilizer or bug repellent? You really don't. So it's very important that you align the right talent with the right position. And then when you have that talent, you have to have a training program. I don't know if you're aware of this, but 90% of salespeople have never been to a seminar or read a book on sales. And that's kind of amazing, isn't it? And then lastly, coaching our people. It is very important, especially in sales, that we coach our people to be champions. Excuse me. So the first thing I had on there was we need to define our strategy first. And it's not sales' job to do that. It is very important that leadership define strategy. So what's your reason for being in business? What's your reason for existence? Right? What direction is a company headed? Are we in growth mode? Are we in protect mode? You know, these are things that we need to have defined, right? What do we sell and why do we sell it? And the next phrase is probably one of the most important things on this slide is that why are we different? When I did some consulting on the side, you know, all these companies would try to get this message about why are we better? Well, they could buy that product from 40 other vendors. It's not why you're better, it's why you're different. Who are you, right? Are you the Ritz-Carlton? Are you going to give that type of service? Are you more of a commodity? That needs to be identified. And the reason it's important for leadership to do it is because it's sales job to follow strategy. Harvard Business Review did a study, and they wanted to research on salespeople, what drives salespeople and what motivates people. And they had all these different metrics, and they came up with the top 10 list. And most people think number one is money. Now, that wasn't a top 10, but it wasn't number one. The other is recognition, and that wasn't even number one. The number one thing that drives and motivates salespeople is this word clarity. Clarity of task. What do you want me to do, and how are you going to measure me on that? And it's not just for salespeople, but most jobs is kind of that, right? They want to know what to do and how they're going to get measured on it. Now, if you're a small organization, you might give it to your sales manager to help you, but it's, it works out better when the story comes from the top of who you are, where you're at, and where you want to go. And then it's now sales job to go ahead, to take strategy and execute on it. So this is a question when I talk with organizations, either our current customers or prospective customers, or if I'm consulting. Like, why do we even have CRM? Why do you want CRM? Because CRM is a decision-making tool. As I said before, maybe when somebody decides that they want to get it, they think it's going to raise all boats. Question that comes up to me, hey, Steve, is this going to make my bottom performers better? And I usually say, not really. They're a bottom performer for a reason, right? But it's going to help them get more organized and give them tools to be successful. Because we want to use the data, and there's data points to help us make better decisions, right? So we want to be able to understand how can we best spend our time. We can use the data points to help us understand how we can allocate resources, maybe where we need some coaching or some training, or some more marketing discussions. And then lastly here, when to sound the alarm. Maybe things aren't going the way they're supposed to go. So customer relationship management is not a one-size-fits-all. What I have on here is there's different roles, and we're going to talk about the different roles. A salesperson, a sales manager, and a leadership team have different views of CRM, right? And they make different decisions in each of their roles, so they need the data to make their decisions. So if you just basically have it designed one way, then those three roles aren't going to get the most out of what they need to get out of. So let's talk about a salesperson's point of view. And you're going to notice a trend as I talk through this, that it's going to be more from the ground up. So we're talking from the salesperson, right? The person out there pounding the pavement. So CRM to them basically should be, where are my greatest opportunities? Inside my current customers or inside my territory? Right? What deals and customers should I be pursuing? That data should be helping with that. And how can I best pursue each opportunity? Right? Is it a large enough account? Should I have an account plan? Should I know who the key decision makers are, the influencers? What are the drivers? What are things I can stage out? And also, is my pipeline healthy? Is it the right size, and is it real? The reason I put that on there is because if I'm a salesperson and I'm told by my boss or hires at B that you need to have $2 million in the pipeline this year, well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to have $2 million of pipeline, of deals in the pipeline. Didn't say what stage they had to be in, right? I just need to have 2 million. So maybe I keep moving this fluff out every month. Oh, you know what? They say they're going to get back with me. They're going to do this. So we want to make sure that the pipeline is real and healthy. The reason you want to do that, because you want to avoid these type of conversations, right? As a salesperson, we live in a glass case of emotions, right? This is what it looks like when a salesperson who just told his boss a week ago, oh, it's a done deal, boss. I'm going to go close it. And then the done deal was lost. So let's talk about a sales manager's point of view of CRM. It's a little different than the salesperson, right? Because the salespeople report to them. So they want to make sure that they have the right people in the right role. It's kind of what I said about a little bit earlier about the talent. The job is, the key is to hire people that are with the right skill sets, the right talent in the right position. And then when they're trained and coached, they should be able to perform. So you want to make sure you have the right people in the right role. And if not, you want to know who's performing well and who was underperforming. And you can kind of use the data. Maybe you can identify trends. So you might be able to use the pipeline where this salesperson brings a lot of deals in. They get to the point where when they get the deals that they go out and do a presentation, but they usually stall after that. Maybe they need some coaching on how to next steps and how to close. Or maybe the person is a good closer, but they're just not out there prospecting enough. So you can use that data to help you really identify where you can help your team. Where are my biggest challenges and opportunities? So how do you rate your reps territory? Do you have a rating system for your accounts? Do you have a rating system for each territory? And then how should I allocate my time with my reps? So let's say you have identified some trends where you got a couple reps that are really struggling on getting past a certain stage of their opportunities, right? So maybe that's the time where you can allocate your time on more coaching. Or maybe you have somebody that just needs some help with prospecting. So this should help you, and that's your mindset of CRM. So let's talk about leadership, and let's talk about the C-suite. So if I'm the owner of a company or director of operations, I want to know, am I providing the right direction to my sales force, to my sales leadership? I also want to know, do I have the right headcount to achieve my business goals? Do I have the right people in the right roles? Right? And does my sales team have the right training tools to succeed their jobs? Now maybe you're selling something that's really intense that needs a lot of training, or maybe you have something that you're dealing that's more of a commodity, and you need to train them more on how to battle that when you're having those discussions on why we're different. And then you basically have everybody else, the other users of CRM. So sales operation, finance, marketing, manufacturing. These people kind of pay attention to the pipeline. They might want to try to get an idea like production. Oh, all of a sudden they see all these deals coming in the pipeline. We might need to make more of that. That's why it's so important to have communication between all those different departments and get the fluff out of there. Because if they're seeing 8 to 10 millions in a pipeline and it's really 3 to 4 million, that can mess up your production and your forecast. All right. So this is something right here that everybody loves to see. So I have on here the funnel. Ooh, right? When somebody sees that for the first time, an owner, a VP of sales, they see that and they're like, oh my gosh, I can see my opportunities. I can see my pipeline. And the picture I have on the left, I don't know if you can see it. It's from A Bug's Life. There's a little fly kind of in the middle to the left, and he's staring at the light, and the other bug's going, hey, Harry, don't look at the light. And poor Harry keeps going to the light. I can't help myself, and he sees it and he blows up because he just, he just fell in love with that light. So I don't want you to fall so in love with that funnel where it kind of clouds your vision, because that funnel is your data. And if you look at the funnel on the left, there's 5 different colors, right? And it's a kind of reverse triangle. And so what you do is on that dashboard, as I'm looking at my funnel for my sales team, we really stage them out. Like the blue up top, that's really the early stage. We just got in contact with these people. So we put a probability, or we put a part of the stage where we're at on that. So once we meet somebody, we feel that we have a 10%, or we're 10% through that sales stage of that opportunity to close that deal. Now you look at the orange, that's kind of the next stage, and you can set these up. That's the beauty of your CRM. So you can actually have sales cycles and stages for different types of your customers. So let's say you have a small customer that buys a certain amount from you, or a current customer. Then you have large ones. Maybe the cycle of those are different. Then maybe you have one for new prospects that are small, and a new one for large. So you can actually have 4 different types for how many you want to help you have more accurate data. But in this one, it's more of a large business. So I have here on the orange that, hey, not only we got to meet them, we're now set up an appointment. Then as we move down the pipeline, as we get down the reverse triangle, you can see the different color, like we get to the purple. And I got that stage to where we actually go on site for a meeting, and then below that is where we deliver proposals. So we kind of cycle out the stages to tell you where you're at. As I showed you earlier, when I did that reverse engineering, as I talked about the different users of CRM, the thing that you need to be aware of, especially if you're in leadership or sales management, is that you can get pulled into where you want to use that for forecasting, right? You want to use that tool at, okay, I got 8 million in the pipe, maybe for manufacturing. Well, what can happen is, let's say you have $10 million, and one of those deals out of the 30 deals is a $2 million deal, you're at 80%. And you think back to that slide where I had the glass case of emotions where you thought it was a done deal, and that one you lose. So you're pulling that one of your 30 deals, the other 29, it takes a hit. So that had a lot of those dollars in it. So I want you to avoid falling into the CRM trap. What I just said, you want to clean it up and have as least fluff in there as possible. But one thing I get asked when if somebody's looking at it, or if it's failed, is they get so involved with this process. We put time in this. The consultants talk to about staging it out, but the salespeople, they're not getting it. Well, if you get so involved with the process and you think if everybody follows it should be the same, then you fall into a trap, because if success depended only on what you did, which is the process you had set up, then shouldn't every salesperson that follows that process perform at the same exact level? It doesn't happen that way. Sales is unlike any other profession. It is a passion-driven profession, okay? And also, there's not a lot of process in there. But if you think about a Major League Baseball player, if they fail 3 out of 10 times, they're an all-star. I'm sorry, if they succeed 3 out of 10 times, they're an all-star, or if they succeed 2 out of 10 times, they're going to be looking for another job. You're dealing with a 70 to 80% failure rate, and that's what we salespeople deal with, all the time. And if I have people looking at me saying, Steve, we're going to implement this CRM, it's going to make everybody better, right? As I said earlier, that's not the case. If salespeople are struggling, usually what I'll do is I'll ask the VP or whoever I'm talking with, and I'll usually look them in the eye and say, are you and your sales team sold on your product? Oh, of course we are. No, I'm talking about, are you so sold on your product that you're irrational and unreasonable about it, that if the customer doesn't buy it, they're losing? And there's usually a pause, because if you think about it, if you are not sold on what you are selling and the belief in your company, then why should your customer, why should that person on the other side? So it's that passionate driven, right? So as I said earlier, that CRM is a tool to assist your selling effort. It's not going to replace a professional salesperson, because you have the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third. And usually the top third, why they're there is they understand that they need to change and grow and move forward. Because most salespeople I hold in high regard. They're high integrity, high trust, but it's a passion-driven business. So we talked about this high failure rate. So if 2 out of 3 CRM systems fail, why is that? Well, a lot of it can be the setup, which we kind of talked about. It needs to be reverse engineered. But the number one reason, without a doubt, why CRM adoption doesn't succeed is because of adoption. This is why it fails. And it's not because your leadership team chose the wrong CRM platform. So if I'm talking to somebody, it's like, oh, we should have used the Microsoft Dynamics over Salesforce or vice versa. That's normally not it. And it's also not that your sales team didn't commit to driving adoption. Hey, if this is going to help us sell more stuff, I'm on board, boss. The sales team is usually excited about it. And it's not that the consultant or consultants that you talked with did a poor job. They usually have a checklist of things to go through, so they set it up correctly. And this is probably the one that people have a hard time believing once it's started. It's not even that your salespeople were resistant. Maybe it wasn't communicated correctly. Maybe there's a lot of different things. So over 30 years of being in sales, 3 different types of CRMs, thousands of discussions within organizations, inside and outside, that I've worked with, I have learned that there's only one reason your CRM adoption stinks. I've done some research on it, and it kind of validated it, and found that your salespeople ignore your CRM tool only for one reason. And it's the $1 million question. And the answer is because they can. because they can. And when somebody hears that for the first time, they're like, what are you talking about? Well, you know, if you think the mindset of a salesperson is to what? If I'm a salesperson, my job is either go outside if I'm prospecting to bring a prospect into my pipeline, or if I'm an account manager, bring a current opportunity within a current account, work that deal in the pipe to the point, to the stage where I either win it or lose it, and I go on the next one. So how is this CRM stuff going to help me do that if I'm a salesperson? The good news is you can drive adoption. You know, I've talked to sales managers. Oh, you just fire one, they all kind of figure it out. Well, you know, fear management doesn't really work well in the long run. It does set a tone. However, if you want to drive adoption, if you want to be that world-class sales organization, there's the one answer that's going to help you do it. And this one, I'm not going to charge $1 million. All right. So the one answer to that question is that if you want CRM to be successful, if you want to be on the right side of those numbers of success, you need to make it indispensable for your sales team. What do you mean, Steve, indispensable? Well, I want you to think right now, if you might be looking at your smartphone. So how many of you can function your day without your smartphone? Right? Or how about if you're looking at your computer or your iPad, right? Looking at your Outlook, your email. You know, a lot of people live in that. You know, they live in their Outlook, their email. So you need to make CRM like that. So when they come to work in the morning, your sales team, or if you're a salesperson, that you want to fire up your CRM just like it's your phone or just like it's your email. Because you cannot motivate all your salespeople to use it. I remember when I was with the pharma company, I talked with a rep, and she told me that she almost went a year without putting anything in there. And sure enough, a few months later, well, she disappeared. And you know, the motivation was there. So you can only motivate those that want to move forward and grow. And salespeople were able to do their jobs before CRM, so they do, right? Like I said, bring them in the pipeline, move them, win them, close them, go on the next one. So to make it indispensable for your sales team, we need to design and build it to understand the natural selling motions of your salespeople from the ground up. We reverse engineering. You might be an organization that only has 2 salespeople and 5 products. Well, that's a lot different than if you're a company that has 50 or 1,000 salespeople and 500 products. You might have different stages of your pipeline. Maybe it only takes a month, maybe it takes 6 months, maybe it takes 2 years. Okay, so we need to understand that so when you build it. So what I want to do is show you some ways that you can actually build it to where salespeople want to use it. So we're a Microsoft partner. We sell Microsoft software. We sell NAB, Business Central. So what I have here is, if you look at it, this is Office 365. And I'm in my Outlook of Office 365. So what I was able to do is integrate my Office 365 with my Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. And I work out of my Outlook a lot. So I send out quotes. And I got an email here. If you look in the left under today, it says Jim Glenn. So Jim sent me an email, and if you kind of look at it, it says, hey, we're looking at buying some office furniture. Well, since I have that synced up with my ERP system, which I actually have CRM in it because Microsoft Dynamics NAB and Business Central have it in it, it went ahead and recognized his email address as a contact. So it opened it up in my Outlook under my NAV, Business Central, CRM. And so if you look over there where it says new, I kind of clicked on it, and there's a little sales quote. So I can actually go on there, and you can even see below some statistics, right? Some of the history of the customer. Do they have any outgoing orders, ongoing orders? Do they have any outdated invoices? It really gives us a good snapshot. So I can create a sales quote right there and send it to Jim out of Outlook. Now, if I'm a sales rep, I'm like, wow, that's powerful. That's cool. That's helping me do my job. And that was not hard. I mean, Jim can send it back to me and say yes, and then I could go back and right underneath it and says sales order and convert it to a sales order right there in Outlook. That's how you work towards making it to where your reps or your team wants to use your CRM. Another way of doing that is understanding your opportunities. Right? As you look, as you look at your pipeline, when we looked at the funnel, your funnel is basically this whole list of opportunities. And so what I have here, if you look at this, to the left it says opportunities in all. So these are all the opportunities for all my salespeople. Right? You see the one I have open, sell Jeff more stuff. And to the right of that, you see a salesperson code. And if you go down, there's all the different salespeople and their initials. And then we can tell the status of it. Like this one's in progress, so you can tell we've won, in progress, and even says initial, where we're at in that process. So if I'm a salesperson, I can see all my opportunities, where I'm at in those opportunities. So like sell Jeff more stuff one, if you look down at the bottom, it has his contact name, Jeff Bergalski, and his company. And then to the far right, it has the statistics on it. So how many interactions have I had? Well, I just started this opportunity, and my current sales cycle stage is at first. I just basically sent Jeff an email. So that gives me a chance of success or probability. I mean, this is stuff that you need to determine how you want to value that. At a 10% of the stage, 10% completed, or 10% probability of winning. So another way you can use your software to sell more stuff is to create what I like to call segments. Excuse me. So, or campaigns. What I have here is a list. This one up top says initial doctor email. So I was in healthcare sales for a while. So what I want to do is create a campaign for doctors. Let's say in my software, under my contacts, I can create an information for each of my doctors. I can create a code for what their practice is. Let's say they're a nephrologist or gastroenterologist or a surgeon. I can make that a statistic inside my customer card or my contact card. So as I go through this, I can even get more specific. Maybe I can have in my questionnaires on it. They see over 50 patients per week. And then in the area that they're in is a large geographical area. There's a lot of patients. So if I want to run a campaign, let's say we just came out with a new drug for ulcers. So I want to send out this email to a list of doctors that are gastroenterologists. So I can run through my mail merge a search through my CRM. Let's say I want to run through all my gastroenterologists that see over 50 patients in this zip code or this, you know, this statistic. And so I could send that email. And there's even email software out there when you do these mail merges that can actually even track if they opened it or if they forwarded it on to somebody. So the point of that is if I'm a salesperson, I want to know that. That data is important to me. That's good stuff right there. So those were some things that you could do in your CRM to set that up to where you can make it to where your salespeople are excited about it. What I wanted to kind of get in here is understanding the sales processes of CRM. So there are 4 sales processes, and what I have, the picture of the right is Donny Osmond. I put Donny Osmond on there because my wife likes Donny Osmond. And that's from Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, the Code of Many Colors. And there are tons of processes out there, and there's a ton of metrics. There was some research done by Vantage Point, and they found that if you followed these 4 sales processes, you would have a high probability of being successful. And this is the 4 processes that they came up with. Now, I actually did a previous webinar called Automating Chaos, which I went over the sales processes in more in depth, but I wanted to kind of hit them at a high level so you kind of understood what we're talking about. So as you're setting up your CRM, you have what's called call management. And it's really what salespeople do is sales calls. So when you are managing your calls, there's usually three steps to your call. Your pre-call planning. So hopefully you got a bunch of good performers. Or if you're a salesperson, you do that pre-call planning. You're going back and looking through all your activity and all your notes, right? Maybe you haven't talked to these people for a while. You want to kind of get a review of your keynotes. And then the next part is your actual call, which most salespeople do, right? And then the next step is really what a lot of people do or don't do, and that's called the debriefing, where they go in and put their notes in. And this is what I hear all the time. Hey, Steve, as a salesperson, they're telling me that you want me selling or you want me in my computer putting the stuff in. Well, if we have that mindset to where it's indispensable, they're using it, they're excited about it. Now, I know salespeople travel a lot. I travel, fly, drive. You might be, 8 hours of travel. But the goal is, can you simplify that? Can you just, 3 minutes? Met with so-and-so, we talked about this, next step, that done. Right? So it doesn't have to be a book, and that's a discussion that we can have. But as we move through these processes, you have what's called opportunity management, which is really several of the calls. Maybe we talked about Jim, who sent that quote in for the furniture. He wanted some chairs and tables. So you, being the astute salesperson, decide to give Jim a call after you send him the quote. Hey, Jim, I got that quote. What are you thinking? Well, we just bought 20 more offices, and we're going to run this one as a sample to see how people like it. So what you're saying is, if that goes well, you might be considering that for the other 19? Oh, absolutely. So wham, there's a new opportunity, right? So you can create that opportunity now in your CRM as a chance for 19 more, facilities. And the key is to keep those separate. So you're going to work on that one that can help you with this other one. Well, maybe in your discussion too as well, that's great. You're going to have any of these other offices, do any type of shipping out of there, or tell me what else they might need. Well, you know what? About 4 of those offices are really going to be to where we do a lot of printing, because we're going to send stuff out to the other teams. So, there might be some reusables. So, say you're selling office supplies, so you can now have another opportunity. And that kind of evolves into the next one, account management. Because now you're really managing the account, because you now have multiple opportunities. So if you want to be a successful salesperson, you take that step back, that eagle soaring at 20,000 foot view, as you can now basically make account plans. Okay, so I'm going to put together a plan. So you got Jim, and who else might be a key decision maker here? So we have these key decision makers. What are the drivers? What are the barriers? So what can I do? Do I have a SMART goal? Am I going to put something in there and follow up and put a date stamp on it to follow up? So it's really allowing you to put a plan together for that account, for each opportunity, for each call. And that leads into the last process, is territory management. So it's up to leadership, to the VP of sales down the road, to basically assess and put together territories. So how do you rate each account in the territory? Like maybe Coho Winery, which Jim was from, is maybe it's they're an A account because of they hit this dollar volume that you have. And you might have some accounts that, they only buy a couple times a year, they're a C account. And a B account can be somebody that buys from you. However you rate them, you can decile them. But this will allow you to help set up your territories correctly. Do we go by geography or by the rating? Because I'm here in the great state of Indiana, and let's say I have 4 offices of Coho Winery, but there's one down in Florida, which is a massive one. And they only want to deal with one person. Well, if we're going strictly geography, we need to be careful, like, the Florida's going to have a separate rep. Well, maybe they don't want a separate rep. So we need to be agile in that mindset of thinking. But these are the 4 sales processes. So as I said, I did a webinar about a year ago on automating chaos. A lot of sales management groups do not have sales processes. If you think of your accounting team, right, they have deadlines, they have business rules, they have processes in place. Same as your manufacturing, right? You have quality measures you have to follow, production rules, and you have these processes in place. But in sales, I hear a lot of call patterns. Oh, I got a process. My reps are supposed to go in every account every 6 weeks. Okay. So tell me your process. Well, they meet with the customers and try to sell them more stuff. Okay. I mean, do you have ways of moving these opportunities down the mindset? So the key is to start thinking and developing your sales process. And hope is not a strategy. I mean, hope is good, but if you don't have a sales process, a bad system will beat a good person every time. We don't want you chasing your tail in a circle here. So as we are defining our sales processes, we need to understand the need for account planning. As I said earlier, when you get to an account that maybe has a little bit more than one type of opportunity, you need to understand that by writing it down and by going back to it and having a plan, you're going to sell more stuff. Because choosing what accounts you want to call on, if you rate them, A, B, C, because you can only spend your time so much. Are we going to prospect? Are we going to call on our current customers? Where are we going to put our time and our activities? One thing I found in that research that they did for Vantage Point and Jason Jordan was that what are things you can control? What are things you want to measure? Well, things that you can do as a sales team and as a sales rep is your activities, right? So you can really plan. So if you're prospecting, right, you can do massive action and call on a lot of people, right? Those are actual activities, but if you also have current accounts, that might take a hit. So, there's different types of activities you can do to achieve different goals. And you need to determine what you need to accomplish. That is so vital. The other parts that we talked about in being a world-class sales organization to help you with your CRM, this is going to really set the tone for success. Are you using your CRM for compliance? Or are you using it for coaching? I had an owner about a month ago tell me, Steve, I want to see when my sales reps put in their calls. I go, okay. He goes, can I actually see that? And I go, yes. And I usually say, why? For some reason, everybody wants to know what the sales team is doing. I rarely have an owner of a company or a VP say, hey, Steve, I wonder if Betsy's posting more than the other accountants. Oh, Sally does better reports than so-and-so. It doesn't get to that. Everybody wants to kind of see what the salespeople are doing. Now, you have the A performer, you have the B performer, and the C performers. If you're lucky enough to have those hunters, those the top 5% that go out there and just get the business and just are passionate about it, and then you have the top farmers, like the account managers that know how to nurture it. Once they get them and maybe are decent at prospecting, if they're feeling that Big Brother's watching everything they do, they can go get a job anywhere, anytime they want. Everybody wants those top 5, 10, 15%ers. Okay. So if you start micromanaging those people, that's not going to be good. So we want to use the data that we have in our CRM for sales coaching, right? And what is sales coaching? I did a webinar on sales coaching because that's a whole nother topic. But the mindset is based on the belief that the question is the answer. If I, as a sales manager, it's not about me and how smart I am and what I know, it's about that person. Because if I did what I said earlier, if I hire the right people and I did my due diligence and put them in the right role, I should be able to let them to succeed. And that's where that coaching model supports that. So as you coach somebody, you're really responsible for helping them find the answers themselves by asking a lot of questions. You're really helping them develop their own problem-solving skills. If you're a sales manager and you're the teller, do this, this, and this, come see me, I'll save the day. What you're trying to accomplish is the opposite of what you're doing. Because every sales manager I ever met wants salespeople that are able to figure it out and do it on their own. But if you're constantly having to have them come to you and ask you, you're creating dependent salespeople that need your approval to think and to do their job. And that just makes it more challenging to hit your numbers and do a good job, right? So if you can help them by asking them good questions, just like what do salespeople do, right? They ask questions. They try to help customers solve problems. It's the same mindset as a sales manager dealing with a salesperson. Because coaching and sales align well because they're both the art of creating possibility. And training doesn't develop champions. Coaching does. You can train somebody to death on the data. That's great. They understand it. But if they can't communicate, it doesn't really go well. So I want to develop champions because I want to be a world-class sales organization. So I have all this data I have access to. And one thing I've learned in my 3+ years being in the ERP world, everybody is addicted to Excel spreadsheets. Everybody wants to see the past. They want to see the performance, right? And I can tell you this, of all the training and coaching I've done, you cannot coach somebody to success, manage them from a spreadsheet. It can't be done. You have to become a people manager, because that spreadsheet shows you what they did, right? It's an activity. If you're looking at CRM, it doesn't show you the quality of what they did. Because let's say you have Bob, the A performer, and you got another performer, let's say Sam. He's a C or B performer. And so your marketing team comes up with this whole new product in a slide deck that they want you to go out to your customers and show them this, try to sell it to them. So you have Bob, the A performer. So Bob's like, great, I got this customer I'm going to take it to. So I'm going to go through all my notes and see what we talked about before. So what does Bob do? Bob goes on their website, kind of digs a little bit deeper. Maybe looks at their vision statement, who the leadership team is, make sure he's got all the stakeholders together. Then does a little bit more research on, where they're at, if there's anything news going on. Goes on their LinkedIn profiles just to make sure, he's seeing and identifying who they are, so he can be better prepared to go in. And then kind of put in the next step. Well, then you have Sam, the C performer, who basically says, great, I'll take that deck, makes the appointment, goes in, shows this PowerPoint presentation. Great presentation. At the end goes, what do you think? Oh, Sam was great. Where Bob goes through and is interactive. So tell me about your pain points. So you see this where it can help. All right, let's set up the next step. Gets his computer out, goes in Outlook, and wants to set up right there. But guess what they both do? They both go into CRM, pull up that account and the activity and put in, met with the leadership team, showed them the slide deck. The next step is boom. Well, if you're looking at a spreadsheet, did you see that? So we want to develop champions. I know you can't get out to see the people all the time, but I think it's very good to have that mindset. Another way you can help develop champions, and this is really hard because salespeople have this thing called ego, and sales managers are probably the most competitive people you're ever going to meet. Sales manager's job is probably one of the hardest jobs in the company, because they're facing with customers, with the sales rep, and they got to report back to leadership. Plus, they're hyper competitive, right? And so one of the things that salespeople do is tend to talk a lot, right? I can solve the answer for you. So we need to take a step back if we're going to develop champions and relinquish our role of being our value being a subject matter expert. It doesn't matter if you know all the answers. If you want reps that are going to be self-dependent, develop their own problem-solving skills, and do their jobs, we need to train them to do that, right? So one of the things is we can interject when we need to. We talk about what they're doing, where they're at, and if they hit a wall, that's the time to interject, not in the beginning. Oh, try this, try that, try this. We don't want those dependent reps. And rule number 1, 2, and 3, Steve Jobs. You think of Branson, and you think of Jack Welch, right? They always say a couple things here, right? Hire the right talent, let your people do their job. And I love this picture here. This is Coach John Wooden. As I said, I'm here in Indiana, and a lot of people don't realize that Coach Wooden started his coaching career at South Bend Central. And then he went on to coach at Indiana State University before he went on to go to UCLA and win 11 out of 12 championships. But if you look at that picture, there's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar just towering over Coach Wooden. And he's listening so intently because Coach Wooden, he knew, had his back. He knew that he wanted him to be the best player he could be and help his team win, not just win it for Coach. This is how you're going to do it. And one of the quotes I like from Coach Wooden is, a coach is someone who can give correction without resentment. All right, well, I hope everybody enjoyed this program. I know we went through quite a bit. And so what I want to do, Angie, was open it up to the floor to see if anybody had any questions.
Yes, we do have a question that came through.
Okay.
Do you feel the CRM in the new Business Central is a good CRM platform?
Well, first off, I think that's a great question. So if you have, I think, NAV from 2015 on up, and it really started getting robust in 17, it has a lot of cool things, how to do your opportunities and manage your contacts. But I think absolutely it is. One is that the other ERP systems out there, like a Salesforce or Dynamics, it has a lot more pretty pictures and more functionality. But really, the what's inside BC has gotten so much better that it does have some of those visuals, and it can really do a really good job. So I would say for 95% of the companies that we deal with, it's a perfect starting point for our small to medium sized business. So that was a really good question. So do you have any more questions?
Nope. I think that's all that we have for now.
Well, great.
If anyone does have any further questions and you'd like to speak to us, feel free to contact us. And also, you can go to our events page and look at any of the events that we have upcoming. We do have a couple more yet this month. We have next week the second part to SQL Perform. They'll be doing a webinar on Dynamics Nav Performance Boosters, the tools you didn't even know you were waiting for. That's on the 19th. And then on the 20th, we have ClickLearn, who will be presenting on Deliver a Complete e-learning platform inside Microsoft Dynamics in minutes. So if you're interested in any of those webinars or future webinars, please don't hesitate to register for them. And we want to thank everyone for attending. And if you are going to any of the conferences this year, we are going to Directions in San Diego. So if you're going to be out there, stop by and find us, and we can talk to you. Or Summit Phoenix, we will be out there at booth 529 this year. So we would love to meet anyone from your company. Again, thank you everyone for attending, and thank you, Steve, for the presentation. It was very informative. We hope to see you on one of our future webinars. Have a great day.
All right. Well, thanks everybody.